Now, about 4 years ago, if you were subscribed to my old channel, Funny Stuffy 1792, you probably know that I already did a review of Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. At the time being when Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood came out, Sonic Unleashed was just about to be released, and Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations weren't even out at the time. The only games that were out at the time for Sonic games were Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, and Sonic in the Second Range, were very hit-or-miss titles. The only Sonic games that were good at the time were the handheld Sonic games, like Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure. When I got Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood back in 2008, I thought it was the greatest Sonic game of all time. But now since I think about it, it's not really that good as I thought it would be. I guess I could say that my review was a little bit premature, to be exact, because I thought that this was probably the greatest Sonic game of all time. You can't really blame me though, because at that point, I was just looking for the next greatest Sonic game, which were only the handheld titles, because the console games were starting to suck after a while. So remember, this was back then before Unleashed came out and Sonic Colors and Generations weren't even thought of at the time. So I thought, for my very first review on my new channel, I thought I'd go back and re-review this game that I've reviewed a long, long time ago. This will be my review of Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood.
First off, I want to apologize for taking so long with this review. This review should have been out the first week of October, but I had many things that are keeping me from doing this, such as my schoolwork, my job at Target, and also spending countless amount of time on the 5th generation of Pokemon. Mostly Pokemon Black too. Whoopsies. But those weren't the biggest issues why it took me so long. See, when I record stuff with my camera, it exports it into an MOD file that doesn't work with my editing software. Well, it does actually work, but when I want to put clips with each other, it will not allow me to do so for some reason. So for the past couple of weeks, I had to research and find a free file converter. I finally found one to help me out with my little problem, but in the future, I will have to get myself a better camera. And if you're wondering how I'm recording my camera right now, well, I'm using my iPhone. So with that said, let's begin. I remember hearing about Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood from my cousin, who showed me an issue of Nintendo Power in the mid-2007. On the cover had Sonic and a mysterious character on the side of the picture. In big bold letters it said Sonic RPG, and I was dumbfounded to read those words. Sonic? In an RPG? I couldn't believe it. Then again, Mario was given his own RPG, so why not Sonic? In the issue it said that Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood would be developed by BioWare, a game company that made many games like Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age, and Mass Effect. This had many Sonic fans and excitement, myself included. Since BioWare had a good track record with RPG games, I thought to myself, well, what could possibly go wrong? Well, on September 30th, 2008, Sonic fans were introduced to Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. The story starts off with Sonic and the gang trying to stop whatever evil deed Dr. Eggman is cooking up. In the end of the intro, it shows Dr. Eggman's character blowing up. This made Sonic, his friends, and many fans think that Dr. Eggman had finally bit the dust. But having no Eggman in a Sonic game is like having no Bowser in a Mario game. It's just not possible. Anyway, a few years have passed since that event, and Sonic is out taking a vacation. While gone, Tails and Knuckles start realizing that the Chaos Emeralds have been disappearing one by one. In a Sonic comic published by Archie, it states that Tails and Knuckles set up a trap to catch whoever is stealing the Chaos Emeralds. In the end, they caught 3 mysterious men, but they underestimated the power these guys hold, and more of them start showing up. Knuckles tries to stop them, but then gets beaten up by the commander. The Marauders, which is the name that Tails gives them, take Knuckles with them to their secret base on Mobius. Or Earth. Whatever. Tails then calls Sonic, who is about to return from his vacation, and tells him the whole ordeal and to meet him at his workshop. Along Sonic's journey, you will run into many characters along the way, such as Amy Rose, Tails, Knuckles when you save him, Rouge the Bat, Shadow the Hedgehog, Big the Cat, Cream the Rabbit and Cheese, and E123 Omega. When Sonic gets to Tails' workshop, Tails informs Sonic that they will have to see Gun in order for them to develop a strategy. With a location in hand, Sonic and the gang hop aboard Tails' plane the Tornado to the Mystic Ruins. It is there where they find Knuckles and rescue him from the Marauders. After saving him, Knuckles knows that Angel Island is not floating above the Mystic Ruins as it should. This leads him to presume that Angel Island has been moved. While looking for Angel Island and more Marauders' hideouts, Tails gets a strange signal implemented around Green Hill Zone. Sonic and the gang gets attacked by old robots of Dr. Eggman, who they think that the Marauders have sent after them. After countless battles, Tails was able to make a device from the robots to pinpoint where the strange signal was coming from. The signal then leads them into an old base hidden within one of the mountains of Green Hill Zone. It's there that they find that the signal came from Dr. Eggman, finding him very much alive. This would have been a nice little twist, but unfortunately the word subtlety is thrown out the window in this scenario. Dr. Eggman then explains to Sonic that he didn't send the robots after him, then that the Marauders did. Dr. Eggman also says that the city that was underneath his control, the last time they fought, is now being controlled by the Marauders. With not so many options left, Sonic agrees to help Eggman with his dilemma and join forces. But seeing that this is Eggman we're talking about here, it can only end well. After meeting up back at Tails' workshop, Sonic and Co. head off to the Blue Ridge Zone. It's there where they find the Marauders and their commander, Shade. It's in this scene that Shade reveals that the Marauders are actually Echidnas and that the real clan name of the Marauders is the Nocturnes. Without much time to talk, Shade and her men create an avalanche that prevents Sonic and the gang to travel through to reach Eggman City. But it turns out that Eggman has made a shortcut to his city through a cave a long time ago. Very suspicious. Well, maybe he does have an IQ of 300.
No, not Shadow Fever!
On second thought, fuck it, I retract that statement. Sonic and the gang finally arrived at Eggman City, seeing it as a complete hellhole since the last time they saw it. It's also there that they find that Angel Island is floating above the city with the Nocturnes on it. It's around then where Knuckles starts to feel very depressed. He then tells Sonic that it's hard to believe to think that for the past years of his life that he was the last of his kind. After a nice pep talk, Tails and Eggman discuss their strategy. The gang then splits up into two teams. One that has Sonic leading a group to hijack a vehicle to get up to Angel Island, while the second team, led by Tails and Dr. Eggman, find a way to take back control of the city and also find means to help Sonic along his way. After a few battles, Sonic's team was able to reach Angel Island, where they find the true leader of the Nocturnal clan, a white echidna named You know what? Fuck it. Just fuck it. Let's call him something else because I can't for the life of me pronounce his name correctly. And for this review, let's call him Keith. Yeah, let's call him that. Then again, Keith doesn't really sound that evil. I mean, come on, watch out for fucking Keith! Anyway, Keith explains that he took Angel Island so that he can attain the Master Emerald, which he will use to get his clan's home out of an alternate dimension called the Twilight Cage, and when he accomplishes his goal afterwards, he plans to then take over the world. Shade, who only wanted for her people to return to Earth, doesn't want anything to do with Keith's plan. It's there that Keith betrays Shade, thus taking off into the shrine to obtain the Master Emerald. With the Master Emerald within his possession, Keith then opens a hole to the Twilight Cage, which then creates a vortex that completely destroys the rest of Eggman City. Sonic and his pals manage to survive the destruction and come up with a plan to get to the Twilight Cage. Shade offers to help, but with her track record with being part of their clan, the gang doesn't trust her fully. Eggman comes up with an idea to build a rocket to reach the Twilight Cage. With the essential parts they gathered, Tails and Eggman were able to finish the rocket ship. The gang then starts to head off, but offered Eggman to join with them. Eggman refuses and decides to stay with his city, giving them a friendly farewell before they take off. I wonder why. With Sonic and the gang now in the Twilight Cage, the second half of the game begins. Once in the Twilight Cage, the team encounters the rock-like creatures called the Kron Colony, who assist them on their journey by providing them with a Chaos Emerald. Next, they meet the Nurgle Colony, who will give the team their Chaos Emerald if they take a weapon from their enemies, the Zoa. Having gained the Zoa's weapon by defeating their leader in combat, the team discovers that the secret weapon is another Chaos Emerald. The two races realize that they have been duped by Keith, who gave them the emeralds to keep each other in check. The two further emeralds are found in the Voix colonies, I think that's how you pronounce it, but anyway. They're inhabited by a telepathic race that have been controlled by a group of 3 Voixes known as the Overminds, whose dominating telepathic powers stem from the use of the Chaos Emeralds. The team defeats them, and the new leader gives them the 2 emeralds that have been given to them by Keith. With the remaining 2 emeralds on Nocturne, the team gathers the leaders of all the counter colonies and carries out a plan to evade the Nocturne's homeworld. The Voixes find a weakness in the force field around the planet. The Zoa fly a spaceship created by the Kron towards it and launches a missile, which deploys a small group of Nurgles to eat a hole in the force field, allowing Sonic and his friends to easily get into. Splitting into 2 teams, they defeat 2 Gizoids, Skilla and Charab? At least I think that's how you pronounce them. Anyway, who each of them uses a Chaos Emerald to wield the elements of fire and water. And they also lower the force field surrounding Nocturne in order to allow the evading forces from the other Twilight Cage races to attack. Both Knuckles and Sonic's team then fights Keith, and are victorious. Keith then uses the Master Emerald to achieve a very powerful transformation, but Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Sonic and defeats him. As Nocturne begins to fall and is nearly destroyed, the team escapes to the Cyclone and heads back to Earth. However, once they arrive back in Metropolis, yeah, that's the name of the city that Eggman had underneath his control, they find that Eggman was waiting for them with a fully rebuilt Metropolis. The game ends at this cliffhanger moment as Eggman fires a laser at the Cyclone, shooting it down from the sky. Sonic, Tails, and Omega then break the fourth wall by explaining to the audience of the past events that happen in this game, and sign the credits for themselves. And that's the end. So, yeah, that's about it. But how's the RPG element in this game? Well, let's first talk about the controls of this game. You can control Sonic and his friends by using the stylus on the DS touchscreen. You also touch the screen to activate an action each character can perform. But you can also use the shoulder buttons too, which in my opinion is much better. By pressing an icon located at the bottom right of the touchscreen, you'll bring up the menu, which allows you to check your teammate's status, your equipment, your objectives, watch movies, save your game, and see the chow in your garden. These are things that you would normally do when you're not in combat, but when you are in combat, it's a bit different. Down in the touchscreen below, you will see a list of commands that you will input which will allow your character to attack, use their power moves, use items, defend, and flee from battles. By pressing attack and choosing your target, you can inflict damage on your enemy. With power moves, you can select up certain moves that a character then performs. Everybody has their own set of power moves which they can perform by themselves or with a certain partner in your party. To use power moves correctly, you will need to input them in on the touchscreen. When you choose a power move, you will see a sequence of circles appear before you on the screen. Some of the circles will have you input them in a certain time, drag your stylus with them, and tap in them rapidly. This also implies for enemy moves as well, so you can successfully dodge them without getting hurt. The function is okay, but it's not as easy as selecting the power move and waiting for your character to perform it. Sometimes if you mess up on the input, your attack only does so little damage, or sometimes even fail. This definitely implies to Cream's Cure ability. Along the way, you can find items and equipment pieces in chests all around each hub world. You can also purchase items and equipment from the stores as well. The items are very standard for your average RPG, consisting of healing items, power restores, and revivals. The equipment in here, don't bother with it. The equipment is pretty damn awful. By only giving you a little boost in your character's attributes or sometimes even weakening them, they're not worth the time and the rings you spend on them or go looking for them. Getting into battles in this game is not randomized whatsoever. The enemy AIs roam around the hub world, which you can bump into them to start a battle or can avoid contact with. But since you're gonna have to level up eventually, you can't avoid them forever. When your character levels up, you can increase one of their attributes, which involves their power, defense, speed, and luck. You are also awarded power points when you level up, which allows you to unlock more power moves or even upgrading them. But if you want to gain some experience or rings while in the hub world, there's also side quests that you can do. Unfortunately, they're not all that great. In fact, they're boring. Most of the side quests that you'll bump into will be like this: do a chore for me or fetch me this and I'll give you a petty reward for it. Trust me, they're not worth the time. There are also puzzles in here too. I mean, what RPG game is it without them? But they're so simple designed that there's not so much difficult or even worth mentioning whatsoever. Returning from the Sonic Adventure series are the Chow. The Chow's purpose in this game is to equip them to the characters and allow them to use that ability each corresponding Chow has. To find Chows, you pick up these white and purple spotted eggs located in the hub world. I'll tell you this, that these guys are way better than the equipment in here. If you have a friend who also has a copy of the game, you both can also trade Chow with each other. Graphically speaking, it looks nice for a DS game. The character models are well made and the illustrations are well done. Though I have to say, while some characters look alright, some can look more fugglier than others. The music in here is the biggest down point of the game. It's bad. Really bad. It's sad to say too, even though we had some bad Sonic games beforehand, they've always had a great soundtrack to them. The music in here is ear-rapingly bad, and while some say it's remixes of other Sonic songs, it doesn't sound anywhere close to them. These songs sound like they more belong on a Sega Game Gear, not a Nintendo DS. If you're wondering what I mean by that, well, listen to the soundtrack yourself. Overall, Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood is not a bad RPG. The graphics are nice for the time and the illustrations were detailed and well made. Although that doesn't say that the battle system is good, it definitely needs to be tuned up a lot. Same thing goes for the music as well. The game itself is very easy. You should not have a problem with this game at all, whether you're a newcomer in the RPG genre or experienced one. The story was a bit of a letdown too, especially when making a cliffhanger at the end and expecting fans to buy the next installment, which most likely is never going to happen because EA now owns the rights to BioWare. If you're a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog series and want to try a take on an RPG, Sonic Chronicles is definitely the pick for you. But if you're looking for a more diverse and deeper RPG experience, you might want to stay away from this title. Go play Final Fantasy instead. Sonic Chronicles, a nice little outing on the Hedgehog's first RPG game, but definitely not the best RPG you'll play for the DS.
Thank Christ it's over. Oh, God. Well, folks, that's it for the review. And once again, I apologize for taking a long time with this review. But I'll let you guys know this, that it will be forever before I even think about reviewing another RPG game. So with that said, you know, I'm not too sure what I want to review next. You know, why not? I mean, the new one just came out a couple weeks ago, so why not we review the previous installments of the franchise? Well, since New Super Mario Bros. U just came out, I was thinking, you know, why not review the other New Super Mario Bros. Titles in the series? So next time I meet you guys, I'll be reviewing New Super Mario Bros. For the DS, which should not take me nearly as long as Sonic Chronicles did, because the stories within these games are pretty much non-existent. So with that said, I'm Ethan, also known as Shadow Dude 17. You guys all have a great day, and I will see you all later.